So one of the hallmarks of civilization is the existence of laws. And at their core, the basic purpose of most laws is to protect humans from other humans who want to do stupid and bizarre things. But what about when the law itself is stupid? I mean, seriously, whoever made it illegal to summon the dead in Pennsylvania was just being a buzzkill. And that Sasquatch hunt you had planned in upstate Washington? Well, you better nix that bad boy unless you want to spend some time in the clink. Let's take a look at the most bizarre laws still on the books in the United States.
There are Sasquatches not far from where I actually live.
It's America's most enduring mystery. Could Sasquatch actually be out there, or does he only live on through out-of-focus photos, late-night bar tales, and jokes?
I think Bigfoot is blurry. That's the problem.
If you ever do find him, and you happen to do it in Skamania County in Washington State, don't get too trigger-happy trying to preserve the evidence. On April 1st, 1969, the county drafted a law to make it illegal to kill Sasquatch. Specifically, premeditated, willful, and wanton slaying of any big hairy ape in the county is a felony that comes with up to a $10,000 fine and 5 years in prison. Okay, so this seems silly on the surface, but there's actually a bit of logic behind it. People have been claiming Sasquatch sightings for decades, so if there really are a few of these big fellas out there, they're definitely an endangered species and ought to be protected. The second reason is even more practical. It's so people don't go out hunting Sasquatch and accidentally shoot innocent hikers instead.
In Skamania County, 2 Portland men lost their lives while searching for Bigfoot.
Oh, and don't let that April 1st date fool you. It's legit. In fact, the commissioner chair at the time had to explicitly state that it wasn't an April Fool's joke because nobody believed it was real. In 1984, the law was amended to make squatch slaying a misdemeanor that carried a reduced fine and sentencing, but it's still standing. In the last couple of years, Netflix has been cracking down on password sharing quite a bit, and frankly, they're a little late to their own party. Tennessee has been throwing people in jail for the exact same thing for over a decade. The law went into effect on July 1st, 2011, and basically says that sharing is not caring. It's a felony. Technically aimed at people who sell bulk passwords and hackers, Time noted in its reporting at the time that it could definitely still be levied at regular old people. According to the bill's sponsor, Representative Gerald McCormick, sharing with like one person probably wouldn't get you nabbed by the 5-0, but what becomes not legal is if you send your username and password to all your friends so they can get free subscriptions. Seems like a little bit of a gray line, especially considering the consequences. Yeah, the law states that if you share under $500 worth of subscription information, it's a misdemeanor. Share anything over that, and boom, you're now a felon. In 2016, an appeals court further ruled that password sharing is a federal crime. Has that ever stopped anyone? Now, the jury's still out on that one.
I'm a happy panda. I use my friend BLT's HBO Go, my friend Squirt's Netflix account, and it's her parents' account.
Cannibalism is pretty bad generally, but believe it or not, 49 states don't have any reference to it as a crime in their legal codes.
Bon appetit.
Now, wait. Before you pull out that Hannibal cookbook, back down. That's not to say you can still do it in most cases. Murdering for food is, well, still murder. There's no getting around that. And every state has laws dealing with desecrating a corpse, even if you just happen to find it. But even though that pretty much covers everything, Idaho decided to go ahead and address cannibalism specifically. Title 18, Chapter 50 of the Idaho state statutes say that making your own Soylent Green comes with up to 14 years in prison. And this law applies to everyone unless you really need to cannibalize someone. Didn't think it could get weirder?
It can get weirder.
The same law clarifies that cannibalism is actually a-okay if the action was taken under extreme life-threatening conditions as the only apparent means of survival. So if you got a yellow jacket, go ahead and yellow jacket. Nobody's judging in Idaho.
Why are you mad at me? He's the one who ate your father.
Lots of states have lots of weird laws, but let's talk about Arkansas. Siren. Okay, I think we're in the clear. If I'd said that in Arkansas, I'd actually be in big trouble. Sort of. This is one of those bizarre laws that gets passed around on the internet a lot, and while it's totally true, it's not nearly as serious as it sounds. The law hit the books in 1881, reportedly after 2 senators couldn't agree on how to spell or pronounce their own state. So they settled it the way lawmakers are wont to do, by making a law about it. The rather lengthy resolution, 1-4-105, gives a step-by-step guide on how to pronounce every syllable, helping generations avoid the classic blunder of living in Little Rock, Arkansas. In case you're wondering, yes, you can pronounce Kansas, Kansas off without risking a night in the clean. So have at it. Hankering for a big plate of hoppers? Not so fast. If those frogs died mid-sporting event, you're out of luck. California law says that it's illegal to eat frogs that died in frog jumping contests. The state hosts the annual Calaveras County Fair and Jumping Frog Jubilee, a 4-day event that draws frog jockeys from all around to compete to see who can get their frog to jump the furthest.
You start jumping frogs, and it just stays with you. There's just something special about it.
So what's the deal with eating the competitors? Health and safety, more or less. California Fish and Game stipulates that if you're competing in a frog jumping contest, there's no oversight on how and where you catch that frog. You don't need a permit or license, and nobody's checking your frog's general state of health. You could pluck the thing out of a sewer for all anyone cares. It was enacted in 1957, and the only fair assumption is that there were more than a few shifty vendors in the years prior that looked at a frog that had just hopped its last hop at the Jubilee and thought, well, free money, for frying them up and selling them back to the crowd. Look, running out of gas just plain sucks, and nobody's going to argue with that. But in one part of Ohio, letting your tent get to E means you're especially apt. The first time you do it, you can be charged with a minor misdemeanor, and the second time can net you a misdemeanor in the 4th degree. And we're not kidding. What makes this law especially bizarre is that it's applied specifically to one small stretch of city blocks in Ohio. That's it. The ordinance states that if you're driving into that area, you legally have to make sure you have enough gas to get back out again. But hey, on the bright side, this is one crime that won't lead to any high-speed chases. What's someone gonna do? Take a break for it? You know how it goes. It's a Sunday morning, you put on your clean shirt, brush your hair, tuck a turtle under your arm, and head to church. Wait, you don't bring turtles to church?
What is wrong with you people?
Well, maybe it's for the better, because if you live in a few southern states, you'd be breaking the law. Kentucky Law KRS 437.060 states that any person who displays, handles, or uses any kind of reptile in connection with any religious service or gathering shall be fined not less than $50. Now, the law most likely came about from revivalist denominations that used venomous snakes as a demonstration of divine protection. I think that's seen in a campaign, and you're on the right path.
I could do this forever. These states love me.
Obviously, whipping out a dangerous animal in a crowded building doesn't square with a lot of safety regulations, so the practice had to go. Kentucky's not the only one with a law against sermon snakes. Tennessee and Alabama, to name a couple, also have legislation against it, although the practice hasn't entirely died away. Back in the day, morality laws constituted a fairly large part of the criminal code. Outdated stuff like making it illegal for a woman to drive a car without her husband or criminalizing walking down a Florida highway in a bikini obviously won't stick today, and a ton of those laws have been repealed in the years since. But some odd ones have somehow managed to stick around. In Pennsylvania, for example, pretending to be a fortune teller is still a misdemeanor to this day.
I want my sister to see this.
On its own, this one isn't too weird, but the sheer detail the law goes into is bewildering. With extremely specific wording, it strikes down necromancy, love potions, giving good luck, and telling a person where to dig for treasure, just to name a few. There's also the pretend aspect of the wording, which implies that if you really can do all these things, well, you're in the clear. And if you can't, well, at least you could probably see that fine coming, right? Did you know that pickles bounce? They do. Try it. We'll wait on you. See? But in Connecticut specifically, if it doesn't bounce, it ain't a pickle. Now, to be totally clear, this one's actually sort of a gray area, legally. There's not some old 1800s law mandating springy dills, but there is a precedent of someone being arrested and fined for selling pickles that didn't meet the bounce test. In 1948, 2 Hartford men found themselves in hot brine for selling rotten pickles. Frederick Holcomb, Connecticut Food and Drug Commissioner, told the press that one of their tests in the investigation involved dropping the pickles in question from 1 foot high and seeing if they bounced. They didn't, and the 2 gherkin grifters were charged $500 for violating food safety regulations. From there, the whole thing sort of became a local legend.
The green identity stems from an obscure law in Connecticut which makes it illegal to sell a pickle if it does not bounce.
Next time you're questioning the ripeness of a pickle, just remember Commissioner Holcomb's official statement. If it doesn't bounce, don't eat an ounce. In Alaska, moose is serious business. Due to the state's abundant wildlife, Alaska has some of the strictest laws in the country for big game harvesting. And most of them make sense as deterrents to poaching or over-harvesting, even if they seem bizarre on the surface. That said, The Last Frontier does have a few puzzling moose rules on the books that'll make you scratch your head. Try this one on for size. In Alaska, it's supposedly against the law to shove a live moose out of a plane. It all apparently comes from a misunderstanding, and the story varies depending on who's doing the telling. What is true is that from 1972 to 2009, the town of Talkeetna held an annual moose dropping festival. Moose turds were painted with numbers and dropped from the air, and if you had the raffle ticket matching the turd that landed closest to your target, oh, you just won. Well, the story is that PETA got a whiff of the goings-on and, mistaking moose droppings for moose dropping, assumed that these Talkeetans were leveraging living mooses out the doors of their Cessnas. Calls were made, arms were twisted, and a new statute hit the books that, yeah, you get the idea. None of this, which had never happened to begin with. Unfortunately, unless this law is locked in a dusty filing cabinet in a Talkeetna basement somewhere, verifying whether any of this actually happened is tricky. But look, against the law or not, don't throw a moose out of a plane.